Purchasing your first home is already challenging. And on top of that, if you're purchasing a home on your own, so without the support of a partner, anyone else, or even your family, it could be even harder and quite frankly, a little scary. I went through this process last year. I purchased my first home and I'm single, almost in my mid-30s. And I want to share with you the pros and cons of buying a home on your own and also the experience that I went through to get started with this process. So first, let's talk about the pros and cons of purchasing a home on your own. Of course, let's start with the cons, the obvious ones, like purchasing a home fully on your own. It could be very cumbersome, a lot of stress and pressure on you because you are going to be fully responsible for all of the payments, all of the mortgages, all of the dollars, and all of the maintenance and all of that. But aside from the obvious of the full responsibility of all of the payment, there are some pros that comes with that because you do get to make decisions of what you like, what you prefer, what your preferences are, your priority. All of that could be very much based on what you need. So there are some pros and some cons. If I were to say some of the obvious pros of owning a home, definitely would be the fact that at the end of the day, you own your home fully. Like when you're purchasing a home with a spouse, with your husband or wife, if that marriage don't go well, you do need to figure out how you want to handle your home, how you want to split that, and it could be very stressful process. And you have to look for a new place to live or whatever that you guys decide. So one of the pros of doing and purchasing and financing your home on your own is that you own your house fully and you have full control of that, which is a great con. I think some of the bigger con that was really known to me when I was going through this process was not having someone to talk to and really learn from and really figure out this entire process as I was going through it. For example, I was super new to the home buying journey. I was so new to like, what does it mean to get a loan? What should I expect within the process? How much should I have saved up? Like that entire process was so new to me that I had to do my own due diligence a lot of time, ask people, search information online, research like whatever I can to learn as much as I can so that I know the process and I'm comfortable with the process and that I could actually make the best decision throughout this entire process. So a lot like learning, and you also will have the lack of bouncing back and forth ideas. Like sometimes you might all that you want and sometimes you might not. You know, it's good sometimes to have a partner, have somebody that who is in this process with you, that's going through it with you to talk through what you guys want, what you guys don't want, like bounce ideas back and forth. Sometimes that is nice to have that, but I totally get it. Sometimes that's actually the opposite of nice, meaning if you and your partner cannot agree on what are the most important things that you want in the home, then you guys could argue and one of you have to compromise or both of you have to compromise, which sometimes is super fair, super, makes sense. Sometimes it could actually be really stressful. So one of the pros in purchasing a home on your own is that you get to decide exactly what you want, ideally, what is the best fit for you and your family, and those are the pros. But now let's get into how to get started with this home search and preparing yourself in this journey of buying your first home by yourself. The first thing that I took action on is really setting my budget. It's understanding, number one, do I have enough savings? What does that even mean? Like determining how much do I need to have saved in order for me to feel ready, and then really figuring out like what is the house price that I'm comfortable with. And there's a huge difference between the house that you could afford, meaning like the loan amount that you're able to get, versus the real price that you truly are comfortable with spending and like truly could afford. There's like actually a huge difference between the two that I do want to talk about, because when I first engaged with my loan officers, and I'm gonna say multiple officers because I did shop around in different banks and loan officers, and you'll learn that there are so many different kinds of personnel that could assist you, and some of them are really great, some of them are not. Commonly, your loan officer will try to get you the highest loan possible. And by the way, preface, I'm just sharing with y'all my personal experience going through the buying journey on my own. By no means I'm a financial advisor or anything like that, so if you want more information on those, please make sure you to do your due diligence as you're looking through the perfect loan officers for you. But when I engaged with my loan officers to really figure out what is the house price that I could afford, what budget should I really think about and work with, I realized really quickly that some loan officer really just want to get you the highest loan as much as possible. Like, it doesn't really matter if you end up eating cup noodles every single day after you purchase your home. They don't really care. They will just try to get you to sign the highest loan so that they could make more commissions or more money, because the higher the loan that you borrow from the bank, the more that they make as well. So you should really do your due diligence on what is comfortable for you. And the way that I budgeted myself is I kind of looked at, number one, like what are my savings? And that could be your cash, that could be money that you have available in the stock market, whatever it is, like how much money do you have available? How much are you willing to put down for the down payment? I have those all calculated through a spreadsheet. I use Google Sheet and just kind of like figure out what that looks like. Then I look at my monthly paycheck and I start looking at what about aside from the savings that I make, what are my total income? Also comparing that to the monthly bills, like things that I need to for sure spend always. So things like phone bills, right? Electricity bill, like whatever bills that you need to pay, even for rent, for home, anything like that, any subscription that you have, basically recurring fees that you're pretty much guaranteed to have. Calculate those, sum up like what is the maximum. And what I like to do is always round up a little bit. Like if for example, if total of my subscriptions or what have you is $100, I will probably round it up a little bit just to give myself some flexibility. So I'll put like 120 or even sometimes like 150, you know, really just depends on how I expect myself to be fluctuated within whatever category of spend that I'm looking at. So calculate essentially all of your expenses, your monthly bills, and then also think about what are your, I call it monthly entertainment spend. So basically to live comfortably, like calculate a life where if you were to live comfortably, not eating cup noodles every single day after you purchase your home, like what would that look like? And then then look at play around with the budget that you have. Monthly spending on entertainment. So aside from bills, so if you like eating out, for example, like not lavishly or anything like that, but like moderately, what would that look like? And how much would that cost you? If you like shopping or like you have skincare or makeup, things that you kind of routinely buy every other month or 3 months, quarter, like whatever that is, try to calculate that in as well, because that will eat into your expenses. So take a look at those. And of course, if you have any debts, if you owe any money, of course, calculate those out in your monthly expense as well. And then really then start comparing, right? So you have your budget, meaning you're gonna look at how much savings you have, right? Total. If you have cash, show that number, or money that you could take out. If you are taking out money, though, just be mindful of the potential taxes that it could add on top of the money that you take out. But just imagine if you have cash, you'll just list out the amount of cash that you have. Like one side, so it's your money that you could spend. So one side's like money you have, so you got your cash, right? And then on the other side, you could say here are like output, meaning like the monthly spending that you could expect to spend every month. So you could have things like your monthly spend on entertainment things or skincare, like personal shopping, grocery, whatever that is, bills, which are like recurring things that could happen, any debt that you potentially have. So now you kind of have those things listed out and start thinking about, okay, what is the percentage of down payment that you're willing to pay? And I'm gonna try to use as self-explanatory term as much as possible, because I realize like even for down payment and debt to spend ratio, like all of that stuff is still honestly kind of new to me, but like it was even newer to me when I started this process. Like, what do you mean? Like down payment essentially is the amount of dollars that you do need to put down. Well, you don't actually have to. There's like other programs, but most people put down an X amount of percentage when you're purchasing a home. It could be as low as sometimes even like 5% or even 3% if you want to try some of the government program, or it could be, most people put like on average, typically 20% and or more. Like I put more than 20%. I think I put probably like 30-35%, something like that down. But again, it's whatever you're comfortable in. My personal logic in putting more down payment for myself was that I had a decent amount of cash that I have saved, and personally I wasn't super savvy in doing stocks and all of that good stuff yet. I do plan on in the future, but like right now I'm not. And therefore to me, the way that I balance it is that I want a monthly payment, like monthly mortgage, that was gonna feel a bit more comfortable for me to manage. So if I do have the little bit more of a cash, I wanted to put into the down payment so that I have a lower essentially monthly payment. And that was like my mainly rationale, is that so I could be a little less stressed on the monthly payment that I need to do, especially for my first home. I'm just so new to the entire process that whatever could kind of smooth me out monthly, if I'm able, I was gonna do it. So that's kind of one thing that I thought about. Whatever, calculate that essentially the down payment that you think you'll be comfortable with, and then whatever leftover cash of that, start thinking about, okay, like start subtracting your monthly expenses, right, from it. It's like after you spend all your money and then you look at your monthly income, if you're, let's say, you're buying $1 million home and your monthly income income is like $10,000, let's say, whatever that number is, but let's subtract your monthly mortgage minus tax minus insurance, and then you also want to minus your monthly expenses like bills, electricity, water, all of that good stuff. And then you also want to minus food, like any groceries, any personal like subscriptions, entertainment that you have, debts that you need to pay, any dollars that you owe. And then of course you need a cushion amount for any type of like house fixing project. And it also depends on what type of house do you want to do. So we're gonna get into that. So anyway, budget wise, you gotta start doing the math, start subtracting anything potentially that you need to spend with the money that you have, how much you're making with your income, making sure that you could comfortably pay for that monthly payment every single month. But that budgeting, it's like a whole chapter, right? Like that's really number one. I feel that if you're buying your first home and you really don't know where to start, making sure that you do have the financial requirement and what you feel as a comfortable budget for you, so you're not over budgeting yourself. And remember, whoever, loan officer that you work with, you just really want to be mindful that they have your best interest at heart. I could tell you from my experience, that's usually not the case. So you really have to look out for yourself and asking yourself the hard question, like what will you be comfortable with paying every month in your mortgage, including tax and insurance and all of that? Like what's the maximum truly that you want to feel that you could pay, as well as if you want to do some savings on top of that, right? Ideally, what is that monthly balance and budget? Then really start there and try your best to not external people influence you in that if you already truly have a hard number in mind. And of course, there's other stuff that you need to keep mindful of depending on the style of the home that you're gonna get. Like, is it gonna be HOA, furniture costs, or redesign for the home that you need, any type of renovation, closing costs, inspection, right? Like don't forget about those, because I know for some people that who are super new, like even me, like I'm like, I don't even know how much to budget for things like closing. Do I need to, get inspection if I'm buying a new build? If I have HOA, like how does it fluctuate throughout like the 30 years that I'll be in the home? If I'm gonna be in the home, like how should I essentially consider those amounts, right? Because sometimes it's not just mortgage, tax, and insurance. Like those are the main three, but there will be other costs that you need to make sure you have budgeted for, so that at the end of the day there's no surprises. So you do always want to, depending on the house, the house price that you are purchasing, always carve out X% and always round up is what I would recommend. Now here's to the fun part. When you're purchasing a home on your own, I think one of the more pros is that you get to imagine the home that you want and really have it as close to your imagination as much as possible. So listing out your must-haves and what you can live without would be really helpful for you to start narrowing down your search. I mean, first it's like how big or small do you want your house to be? Like what square footage and what style of home? Like, are you looking for single family only? Are you open to townhome, condos, apartments? So have that vision in mind of like what you're looking for, and how many bedroom, bathroom, how many floors can you accept? Is it one floor? You like the one floor flat type of home, 2 floor, about 3 floors? Do you need a yard? Okay, now let's talk about location. How to decide on location. I mean, you guys hear this all the time. Location is key, and it really is. And of course, some in locations that are more ideal, it could come with a more premium price. And I personally debated this a lot, especially thinking through that, like, oh wow, like I'm gonna be paying the whole mortgage by myself. I really do want something more affordable. So seeking out homes that are further away from cities that are more expensive was something that was on my mind. And I did look through different outer cities and suburbs that are more affordable. And this is where, if you're also interested in that, you really need to think through what are the maximum distance that you're willing to do and like take it. And for me personally, a lot of which is dependent on my parents. Like when I plan on purchasing this home, I plan with my parents in mind, that they're gonna be living here with me and that they're gonna grow older here around this neighborhood. So when it comes to making sure that the location is within an area that's easy for them to access their favorite markets, fresh food, that was something that is important to my family. They like to purchase purchase, fresh meat, fresh produce, fresh fish, all of that good stuff. So being in a distance that was easy for us to grocery shop was important. And the second thing was job location. For me, I now work in a hybrid environment where I do need to go into the office. So that is actually a big consideration, given that I do still need to go into the office X amount every single week. Therefore, having a distance that actually makes sense, or having the right transportation around the home that makes sense, is important. And you have to make that determination of what makes sense for you. For some people, 30 minutes commute to the office is perfect, or it's too long. For me personally, I kind of cap my limit into like 1 hour commute, like each way to the office and back. I know for some people that's already like so much when it comes to like commute time. Totally get it. And it's not, the most pleasant, but it was one that I personally was able to accept. And for some other people, more than an hour was something that is even, acceptable. So it's really up to you on what you're willing to endure, right? And for me, that was my limit. I kind of said that. So that again helped me narrow down the radius, the location that I was willing to consider, right? Given the commute time, the location, the things that are accessible around the location was something really important. Like school district's really important for you. You gotta really look into the school district around the area, right? And the distance and the commute into those school districts and so forth and so on. So those are when it comes to location, I think, definitely do consider and think about when it comes to your lifestyle. Are you more of like a homebody that like doesn't like go out? And honestly, even if that was the case, what's comfortable for you? Like for example, I'm a homebody. I feel like my family are majority of the time a homebody. However, my family and I likes to exercise and be able to kind of go out and still walk around, exercise around the neighborhood and community. So having a community and be part of a community, a neighborhood that still feels safe to go out, around your street, around your neighborhood, to like exercise, walk around. It was something that was super important for my family and I. So making sure that the community and the neighborhood that I was also seeking after have those things available was also another very important thing. Okay, aside from location, I think the also more fun part is like, what are your must-haves, nice to have? Like really going through that list even more so, because I think as you're doing home tours and like looking at different homes, there's always you find a home and you're like, wow, this is perfect. If only it has this, and this thing. Or you look at another home and it's also like perfect in its own way, but it's missing some other things. And as you tour more and you look at even pictures and things, even online and in person, you'll start figuring out what are some things that you're willing to settle for, meaning like there's some things that you're like, you know what? I would like to have this, but maybe not the most important thing. Like it's okay if I don't have. You're gonna have some of those. So start to like actually narrow down what those are. It's gonna be really helpful for you in this home search process. So for me, for example, some of the most important thing for me is that I was looking for minimum of 3 bedroom. And when it comes to like nice to have, like I do have certain things on my list that I put down as nice to have, not must have. Things like tub for the shower so I could take bath. Like it's a nice to have, but if I do find a home that's like perfect in every other way and doesn't have a bath for the shower, I would be able to live without that. A second living room was something that I also put down as a nice to have. Like it's great, especially if you're living with other folks or like your family or whatever, like just having more space, dedicated space where you could, someone could hang out here and you could hang out there. That would be ideal. So I also put that as a nice to have, but again, not must have in terms of it will be a deal breaker if I don't have this in the home. So again, listing those things out is number one, kind of fun, to be honest. When I was, listing those things out, it was quite fun for me, especially because when you're buying home on your own, you're going through this journey on your own, like what your must-haves are and nice to have is kind of dependent on what you like and think is important. And that is one of the beauty of purchasing a home on your own, is that you do get to decide on all of those things. And of course, the somewhat con is that sometimes you don't really have someone to talk to about these things, and that would be a con. I remember doing my home search process, there were moments where I really wish I had somebody to talk to and just bounce ideas and just kind of help validate some of the thinking that I had and the journey that I was going through was the proper one. And I would, sometimes call up my friends or my family and my family's friend have gone through purchasing a home to get advice, to get their guidance, but I try to be really mindful of that because I don't want to like bother my family and my friends too much on it, because again, like it's no one else's responsibility to make sure you buy the home. It's like your own responsibility to make sure that you are following the right steps, you're doing your own due diligence. So I do set a limit of my amount of time that I do ask other people that are willing to kind of provide those guidance for me, which I'm super appreciative. But the process of doing this on your own, sometimes the con is that you do gotta do more on your own, research and all of that to make sure you are doing the right things. So those are the things that I would say those are the key things to kind of go through when you're starting this purchasing your first home process, especially on your own, to kind of start narrowing down more of what you want, what you don't want, how much you could afford, and then go from there. And of course, once you're actually found the house, the home, and you're ready to buy, that's gonna be, another process on its own, which I'll share with you guys in the next video. I hope that this is helpful. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.